before that, there is another assignment to meet a jurisdiction of place of sway. We will quickly go through that. Section 15 provides that it has to be instituted lowest form. Suppose there are various courts in a district and you have a valuation of 1 lakh. Even though the civil judge senior division or the district judge or the high court have unlimited jurisdiction from 0 to top. But here is a provision that you have to go to the lowest court. We come to section 16 because we will be quickly going through it. It provides where the suits for immutable property shall be instituted, where the subject matter of suit is instituted. For recovery of immutable property, with or without rent or profits, that you will institute in the district in which this property is situated. Second is for partition of immutable property. We have already discussed that if property is there, some property is out of district, you can also file a suit for partition that we will read out later on. Third is for foreclosure, sale or redemption in case of mortgage of charge upon immutable property. Then for the determination of any other right to interest in immutable property. For compensation for wrong to immutable property. For the recovery of movable property actually under descent or attachment shall be instituted in the court where the local limits of whose jurisdiction the property is situated. Why this has been done? Because we are taking an example of a tenant. You have to file a suit against the tenant. Property situated in Delhi or in Kanpur. You have to file a suit at Kanpur because ultimately it has to be executed and the tenant has to be evicted. So, not to prolong the matter, the legislature has mentioned that you have to file a suit where the immutable property is situated. Immutable property means अचल संपत्ति, जो चल संपत्ति नहीं है, प्रॉपर्टीज, बिल्डिंग्स, लैंड, ये सब मैटर इसमें कवर्ड होता है. इसका एक प्रोविजन है. अगर कोई बात किसी जिले में बगैर इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी को टच किए ये तय हो सकता है कि इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी में मुझे कोई इंजंक्शन चाहिए, वो इंजंक्शन भी ग्रांट हो सकता है. Provided the suit for obtained relief respecting or compensation for wrong to immutable property held by on behalf of the defendant may, where the relief sought can be entirely obtained through his personal obedience, be instituted either in the court within local limits of whose jurisdiction the property is situated or in the court within local limits of whose jurisdiction the defendant actually and voluntarily reside. That is already there. Where the defendant is residing, you can also file that. But regarding immutable property, you have to file suit in the same district where the immutable property is situated. And if you want any judgment on this, this is section 16. The judgment is Harshad Chiman Lal Modi versus DLP Universal and another, reported in 2005, volume 7, Supreme Court cases, page 791. It is on page 5. If you have got books or rulings, you just move your Google and just take out. Thus recognize a well-established principle that auctions against property should be brought in the forum where such property is situated. A court within whose statutory jurisdiction the property is not situated has no power to deal with it and the right and interest of the such property. So they have very clearly in para page, Supreme Court has mentioned that you have to take trouble of filing a suit where the property is situated. We come to section 17. Suits for immutable property situated within jurisdiction of different courts, where suit to obtain relief respecting or compensation for wrong or to immutable property situated within jurisdiction of different courts. The suit must be instituted in any court within the local limits of whose jurisdiction any portion of the property is situated. Any portion of property is situated. provided that in respect of value of the subject matter of the suit, the entire claim is cognizable by such court. If you record any ruling on this point, that is 2019, volume 2, scale, page 620, Shiv Narayan versus Manik Lal, civil appeal number 1052 of 2019. In para 11, it has been mentioned that the word property under section 17 of the Civil Procedure Code may also be properties. Hence, in a schedule of claim, more than one property can be included. Section 17 can be applied in every that there are several properties, one or more of which may be located in different jurisdiction of the court. The word portion of the property occurring in section 17 has to be understood in context of more than one property also, meaning thereby one property in section 17. Thus, interpretation of word portion of the property can be only understood in a limited and restrictive sense of being portion of one property situated in jurisdiction of two courts. They say that there should be two properties. One should be the jurisdiction of the court, another should be out of jurisdiction of court. There are certain rules as said, like partition. Because in partition, the property is situated in various parts of India. Where the property is situated in a district, your own district, and there is a dispute of partition, you can file a suit in your district, including all the properties and implicating all the parties. The another part of this ruling is Subramanian Swamy versus Ramkrishnan Hegde, reported in 1991. One Supreme Court cases, page 4. Page 5. It is true that if more than one court has jurisdiction under the court to try the suit, the plaintiff is dominus litis. You have a higher hand. Dominus litis has the right to choose the court, and defendant cannot demand that the suit be tried in any particular court convenient to him. The more convenience of the parties or any one of them may not be enough for the exercise of power, but it must also be shown that trial in the chosen form will result in denial of justice. He cannot move for transfer application. He can move a transfer application only on the ground of that there is a denial of justice. I am not getting justice. So these two rulings are on this point in section 17, which you can very well understand and read, but I have given you a brief point on that. We come to section 18, place of institution of a suit, where local limits of jurisdiction of courts are uncertain. There can be cases where it is alleged to be uncertain within the local limits of the jurisdiction of which two or more courts or animal property is situated. Any one of those courts may, if satisfied that there is a ground for the alleged uncertainty, record a statement to that effect and thereupon proceed to sue to the same effect as the property was situated within local limits of jurisdiction, provided that the suit is one with respect to which the court is competent as regards the nature and value of the suit in exercise of jurisdiction. So you have to seek permission. That is like that statement will be recorded. You have to first point out the court that property is in another district also and seek permission of your court that I may be permitted to file the suit here. Where a statement has not been recorded, simply you have not sought permission. Statement means you sought a permission and the statement has not been recorded, or you have not disclosed this fact before the court. Where a statement has not been recorded under subsection 1 and an objection is taken before an appellate or divisional court that a decree or order in a suit relating to such property was made by the court not having the jurisdiction where the property is situate, the appellant or divisional court shall not allow the objection unless in the opinion there was at the time of institution of the suit no reasonable ground or uncertainty as to the court having jurisdiction with respect thereto, and there has been a consequent failure of justice. So that can be condoned. But if the defendant shows that there had been a failure of justice to me, then the appellate court may consider all those things, whether the suit has been properly instituted and whether the plaintiff has pointed out and given statement to the effect. So the matter may be brought before the knowledge of the court, and he may give permission to you to institute the suit, and the defendant may also know that my property at some other district is also involved. But this is like a section 21A, because in 21A it is provided that if you don't take objection to the territorial jurisdiction in the first glance, and later on you are debarred from pointing out the lower court had no jurisdiction. So this principle based on the ground of 21A, section 21A, where it has been written that the court will, appellate court or any other court will have no jurisdiction to hear that. We come to section 19. Suit for compensation for wrong to person or movable properties. Now the word is person और मूवेबल प्रॉपर्टीज. अचल संपत्ति और चल संपत्ति में आप लोग अंतर समझते हैं. चल संपत्ति जो है वो जो जमीन से नहीं गड़ी होती, जिसका सारांश मोटा मोटा जवाब होता है, जो जमीन से नहीं गड़ी होती वो चल संपत्ति होती है, जो जमीन से गड़ी होती है वो अचल संपत्ति हो जाती है. तो चल संपत्तियां हर प्रकार की है, पैसे है, नोट है, स्कूटर है, सब कुछ है, वो जमीन के अंदर गड़ी नहीं है. तो दे आर ऑल मूवेबल प्रॉपर्टीज. और अगर पर्सन को या मूवेबल प्रॉपर्टीज को कोई हानि होती है तो इसके लिए उन्होंने कहा है वेयर सूट फॉर कंपनसेशन फॉर रॉन्ग डन टू द पर्सन. आपके साथ रॉन्ग हो गया. पर्सन मीन्स इंडिविजुअल. पर्सन और टू मूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी if the wrong was done within the local limits of jurisdiction of one court and the defendant resides or carries on business or personally were foregone within the local limits of the jurisdiction of another court, the suit may be instituted at the option of plaintiff on either of the said court. If the injury is to the person or to the movable property, plaintiff has a choice. He may file a suit where a cause of action is arisen, or you may go to the defendant's residence. It is also there. Further, it will be coming that you have a right to file a suit where the defendant resides or work for gain. So that point is also there, suit for compensation of wrong or person. We come to section 20, which relates to very important thing. Other suits to be instituted where defendant resides or cause of action arises. Two very important things. That where the cause of action resides or where the defendant is residing. Subject to limitation, aforesaid suit shall be instituted in a court where a local limit of whose jurisdiction the defendant or each of defendants, where there are more than one of the defendant, one at the time of commencement of the suit actually and voluntarily resides or carries on business or personally works for gain, or any of the defendants where there are more than one at the time of the commencement of the suit actually and voluntarily resides, carries on business or personally works for gain, provided that in such case either the leave of the court is given or the defendants who do not reside or carry on business or personally work for unaforesaid acquiesce in such institution where the cause of action is wholly or in part arises. This is very important. Wholly in part arises. On this basis, various type of suit of contracts are filed, where any intimation has been given to the contractor who is in Delhi and the parties of Hyderabad, then the plaintiff also says that cause of action arose at Delhi because I have given my tender from Delhi and it has been accepted at there, to where a part of cause of action has arisen, part of cause of action has arisen. But the very important thing, as lightly I'm saying, it is not lightly. A corporation shall be deemed to carry on business at its sole or principal office in India in respect of any cause of action arising at any place where it is a subordinate office. As far as corporation is concerned, where it has a head office or where it is a subordinate office. There is a difference between working at in a small village or town and having a subordinate office. So these are section 20, which permits that we can file a suit where defendant resides, and where more than one defendant residing very distant. You will point out in your plaint or point out by way of application that defendants are there. I am filing a suit here. And then also the cause of action, part or full. Suppose a person has made a theft of your bag. He has loaded the train from Delhi and he stopped at Jaipur. Then he went to Bombay. Then from Bombay, he traveled back to Calcutta. And from Calcutta, he came to Uttar Pradesh, Lucknow. And then from Lucknow, he came to Dehradun, is capital of the Uttarakhand. Where the bag was traveling and the theft was made, all the courts have jurisdiction to entertain the suit, to admit the suit. This is rather used more in criminal side, rather in civil side. But cause of action has arisen at every place. Cause of action means to action to take. There was a cause. There was a cause with me. I have a right to take action. So that was there. If you want some ruling on section 20, I will be giving you 2004, volume 4, Supreme Court cases, page 677, New Moga Transport Company versus United India Assurance Company Limited. In page 3, they say, normally under class A to C of section 20, I have read section 20, plaintiff had a choice of forum and cannot be compelled to go to the place of residence, cannot be compelled to go to the place of residence or business of the defendant, and can file a suit at the place where the cause of action arises. If the defendant desires to be protected from being dragged into litigation at some place merely because the cause of action arises when it can save itself from such a situation by an exclusion clause. We will be discussing what the exclusion clause is. Now I'm just reading the book, and then we will be discussing the important aspect which you will face in deciding the jurisdiction of the court. And very important is the exclusion clause. On a plain reading of the explanation section 20 CPC, it is clear that the explanation applies to defendant, which is a corporation, which term would include even a company. The first part of the explanation applies only to such corporation which has its sole or principal office of particular state, particular place. In that event, the court within whose jurisdiction in the sole or principal office of the company situate will also have jurisdiction, is means as even if the defendant may not actually be carrying on business at that place where the head office is. It will be deemed to carry on business at the place because of fiction created by the explanation. The fiction has been created. It is another page 5. It was observed by this court, with Supreme Court, on agreement affecting jurisdiction of the courts is not invalid. It is open to the party to choose any one of the two competent courts to decide the dispute. Once the parties bound themselves, as such, it is not open for them to choose a different jurisdiction. So after finishing in section 20, if you want to know, there is another ruling on this point on carries on business. That is AIR 2006. Supreme Court, page 730. Messrs. Dhoda House versus SK Mengi. This leads to section 20, carries on business. If you go through page 10, it says about what is the meaning of carrying on business. So we came to this point of that Supreme Court ruling. As was observed by this court, an agreement affecting jurisdiction of the courts is not invalid. It is open to the party to choose any one of two competent courts. So which has to be discussed, rest. It all has been given in the book. We have read it also. It's a very easy subject where the defendant is residing or where the cause of action is a part of cause of action regarding immutable property. You have to come to that district where the immutable property is situated. There's no big thing in it for instituting a suit. You have to simply go through for this section and then find out where to. But there's one more aspect which has been discussed for section 20. That there is a contract between A and B that no suit shall be filed at Lucknow and only the suit shall be filed in the court of London. This problem will coming to you if you are dealing with an arbitration matter. You will be coming with this problem. Or in international contact, they write, we will go to the Singapore for arbitration. On the basis of this ruling where they say that parties by agreement can confer jurisdiction and it is not invalid to do that. You are residing in Delhi, you made a contract. In that contract, it has been written that the jurisdiction of London court will apply and the defendant is living just adjacent to your house. You went to the person, what you have done, you are residing here, I am residing here. I have done the contract within Delhi. You issued the tender within the Delhi. You invited the tender in newspaper at Delhi. I have applied at Delhi and I have completed the metro work at Delhi. So should we go to the London to contest a suit or contest the arbitration? So the cause of action word will play an important role. Where defendant reside has a cause of action. Where no cause of action has arisen in London and no cause of action has arisen in Lucknow or Kanpur, you can say this is invalid because no cause of action has arisen in London or Kanpur. All cause of action has arisen in Delhi. The law is of exclusion. If 3 courts have jurisdiction or 5 courts have jurisdiction, you can exclude the jurisdiction of 4 courts and confer a jurisdiction on 1 court that you are permitted. Otherwise, that contract is invalid under section 23 of the Contract Act. This is very question you will lively have in everyday's life. So you have to see where the jurisdiction is being placed, whether any cause of action has taken place there or not. If no cause of action has taken place, no contract has been executed, no work has been executed in the London or in the Kanpur or Lucknow, you will say to the arbitral tribunal under section 16 or come to the court challenging the jurisdiction, you have no jurisdiction because none of the cause of action has been arisen before you in your district. But if the cause of action has arisen in London also, the document has been executed at London and the arbitration proceeding has been conducted in Kanpur, and thereafter you come to Delhi for judgment, then you can exclude the jurisdiction of 1 court out of 3 courts. This is the important first point. When you will see that contract and go to the court that there should be some cause of action before you, I can exclude some court where the cause of action has arisen by contract agreement between the parties. Because in certain contract, the part of action also arises at Kanpur, then Lucknow, and then London, and then Calcutta, and then Bombay, because meetings are being conducted at different places. contract is being executed at different places. Parties are sitting in London, but their work is being done in India. So only first thing you will find whether the court have jurisdiction or on the basis of cause of action. If all the courts have cause of action and then they can take a cognizance of the matter, then you can exclude any of the courts and create. You are not creating a jurisdiction. You are simply verifying because we prefer the jurisdiction of this related court because cause of action is also placed here. So that matter was important to be discussed with you. There's a lot of ruling on this also. Then we will go through under section 23 and section 20, 23 of the contract and in section 20. You will find out this judgments that where the jurisdiction of the court is excluded, you can exclude the jurisdiction. You enter into a contract, you say the jurisdiction of this court is in dry cleaners bills or by traveling agencies bill or certain papers were signed where it is written that the jurisdiction is only of Delhi court. They write it by agreement. This is a contract. But if they write jurisdiction of Delhi court only, word is only, there's a full law of the Supreme Court at this point. If they say only, then you will exclude the jurisdiction of all other courts. But what you say, the court, the litigation will take place in the courts of Delhi. It is okay because there is a cause of action. I can take litigation at Delhi also and other places also. When they say it will be take place in Delhi only, word is only, then jurisdiction of other courts are excluded and the arbitral tribunal or the court takes cognizance of it. But it normally does not apply to movable property. But a matter is pending now before the Supreme Court where two judge benches said that dispute of movable properties can be decided by the arbitral tribunal. One of the views is against, one of the views in favor. A larger bench has been constituted whether the arbitration proceeding should follow the movable property or not. Because in movable property, you have to go to that district for implementation. And likewise, the view says for implementation of award, execution of award, you have to go to the court where the jurisdiction has been mentioned. So these type of problem will be coming to you and you will be facing all these problem. Section 1 to section 210